All right, so we are being asked to graph the following linear relations using a table of values. So I left it blank so that I can show you how to come up with the numbers. Here my equation is y equals negative 3x plus 4. So we've done similar questions before. This is more of a review to remind you. I need to come up with x values that I can put into the left-hand part of the column. And remember, the left represents the independent variable. And you can see the y is going to depend on what values, of x I put in here. So really, I could put anything. I can put 1, 2, 3, 4. I can put 21, 22, 23. It really doesn't matter. But what I like to do is put these specific numbers that help us see what it looks like on the left-hand side of the graph, on the right-hand side, and so that I know what's happening in the middle. So the numbers I'm going to use are -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So those 5 are going to show me what's happening to the left at 0 and to the right for those particular x values. And it'll give me the y values for that. So for each x value, I'm going to substitute it into the equation. To get the y value, I take the x value, multiply it by -3, and then I add 4. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to write -3, and then instead of x, I'm going to put -2 plus 4. So -3 times -2 gives me +6. Plus 4 gives me 10. So I did that in one step. If you need to write it out in 2 steps, you can. So you can put +6 plus 4, and then you can put 10. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but this time the x value, instead of being -2, the x value is going to be -1. So -3 times -1 plus 4. -3 times -1 is +3, plus 4 is 7. I'm going to do the same thing for 0. -3 times 0 plus 4. -3 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. And I'm going to do the same thing here. -3 times 1 plus 4. -3 times 1 is -3, plus 4 is 1. And finally, I'm going to put x is 2 in here, plus 4. So -3 times 2 is -6, plus 4 is -2. Okay, and you will notice that the y values are going down by 3. And that shouldn't be a surprise that the y values, that the first differences are 3. These are my first differences. The question doesn't ask for them, but I'm just reminding you. Our first differences are -3. I'm going down by -3 each time, and that shouldn't be a surprise because I see that my slope is -3. So my first differences are going to be constant, and they're going to be -3. Now that I have my x values and my y values, I can graph these coordinates on the chart, or on the graph. So my x value is -2 and my y value is 10. So I'm going to go -2 on the x-axis, and on the y-axis I'm going to go, so this is my y-axis. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go to 10, and they meet up right here. Next, my x value is -1, and my y value is 7. So -1 and 7. 0 and 4. So that means at 0, I am at 4. At 1, it's at 1. And 2 is -2. And when we did graphing in class, it went well, so this part should be okay. in terms of graphing the coordinates. Just make sure that you have the correct x value and y value. Don't switch it. And I know that I did it right because I can see that it forms a straight line. So I'm going to connect the dots with a ruler. And I'm going to put arrows on both ends. Those arrows are important to be there to show that my graph extends this way and extends that way forever and ever and ever. So that's how you do that. If you can even double check to make sure that the slope is -3 by checking the rise and the run. All right, next question. Y equals 1/2x minus 1. You'll notice this is a fraction. So to set up the x values here, instead of doing -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 like I did in the last example, I'm actually going to set different x values here because I want to get rid of the fraction. I don't want to have to deal with it. So what I'm going to do is, instead of the values that you saw here, I'm actually going to put multiples of 2. The 2 is in the denominator. So to get rid of the fraction, I'm going to do multiples of 2. So a multiple of 2 is -4. Another multiple of 2 is -2. And then 0, 2, and 4. So I've put numbers that I know 2 goes into because I know that then I can divide out that 2 and I can divide out and get rid of the fraction. So I'm putting multiples of the denominator, numbers that the denominator goes into. So if this denominator was 3, then this would have said -6, -3036. If it was 4, then it would have said -8, -4048, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to do the same thing. For each x value, I'm going to substitute it into the equation. So I'm going to replace the x with these values here, starting off with 1/2 times -4 minus 1. So -4 divided by 2 is -2 minus, so I'll write it here, -2 minus 1 gives us 3, -3. You can think of this as, this has a denominator of 1, so I can divide this way. Or if you wanted to change 1/2 into a decimal, 0.5, and multiply like that, you can. We just run into errors if it was 1/3 because that gives us a long decimal. Okay, next I'm going to do 1/2 again, but then this time instead of 4, I'm going to put the 2, the -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1, minus 1 is -2. Next I'm going to put the 0, 1/2 times 0 minus 1. 0 times half is 0, minus 1 is -1. 1/2 times 2 minus 1. 2/2 is just 1. Minus 1 is 0. And 1/2 times 4 minus 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Minus 1 is 1. You will notice that the first differences are not half. So I'm not going up by 0.5. I'm not going up by 1/2. And the reason for that is that those first differences only work if my x values are going up by 1. Here, my x values are not going up by 1. They're going up by 2. So I am not going to see my slope in my first differences. It doesn't show up if my x's aren't going up by 1. So now I'm going to graph the coordinates. My x value is -4 and my y value is -3. So I'm going to find -4 and -3, and it goes right there. I did a fancy cut on this paper and lost that one. -2 and -2. 0 and -1. Oh, sorry. Don't know why I went there. 2 and 0. 4 and 1. And then I'm going to connect the dots. Let's say that you didn't have room for this one. That's okay. I don't really need to have had all of these. Oops, you know what? It's really throwing me off that there we go. I went up by 2s. I'm going to connect the dots. And notice how I made a mistake here, and I was able to pick up on it because when I looked at the slope, I realized that this was not consistent with the other ones. My line would have gone up and then curved across here, so that wouldn't have made sense. Or if I had kept this one, my line would have gone like this and then up and then down, and then you should not have to connect the dots. You should be able to lie your ruler flat, and your ruler should go through all of those points without having to lift it and move it and shift it. So if you did it correctly, it should look like this.